Hey there, my name's Nate. I'm the owner of Lakeview Home Improvement, and today I want to talk to you about setbacks and delays that have occurred on recent projects, just to disclose full transparency. So oftentimes we have setbacks. We have problems that arise, challenges that come that often we don't have a plan for. So I want to talk to you about a scenario that recently occurred on a kitchen renovation that caused some setbacks and ultimately has the homeowner stuck without the kitchen. So let me paint the picture for you. This is a great client of ours that once they watch this, they're gonna laugh because I know that they trust me and they really do value the way that we operate. But ultimately, I like to be in there and do everything I can to make the experience the best it possibly can. And so that means making sure that all of the schedule is aligned and all the materials and supplies are coordinated with that schedule. This particular remodel, it was a very simple update. All we were doing was replacing the countertops and replacing the sink, and we were going to be replacing the wall oven with a convection microwave and a cooktop. Now, to add a little bit of a mix to this, the cooktop was an electric cooktop from before, and we're converting it to gas. So with the new cooktop being gas, we had to replace the existing range hood to accommodate for a larger cubic feet per minute. Now, obviously with a gas range top, there is the potential for flare up, and so it actually had to have a taller clearance. So some changes were necessary with that. But the biggest complication, and I would say probably one of the largest setbacks, is the fact that we had to wait on the appliances. These appliances were ordered in November of 2021 and arrived in almost March of 2022. So unfortunately, because of that delay, we were unable to go ahead and have the countertops installed because we want to make sure that those appliances show up and that when we go to cut the template for the new range top, it actually fits and the stove that matches it is there. Otherwise, we would have a hole in a countertop for a specific unit that may not ever show up, that now if we decide we're changing the brand or the model or the make, we want it to match the wall oven and the convection microwave. So again, to throw another mix in the wrench here, we want to make sure that everything matches, and so before we go putting in countertops, we waited, and as all the materials showed up, we checked off our manifest, made sure that everything was so, made sure that everything matched, all of the SKU numbers were correct, and from there we were able to order and schedule the countertop measurement. Once our countertop crew showed up, they did see the measurements were there, they did make sure that all of the details were going to work just fine, and we also went ahead and scheduled the gas line to be run over for the cooktop. So not a major setback, but ultimately just a few things that could have created a massive nightmare if they weren't planned accordingly. And even still, there are delays because when we came back to put the backsplash in, we realized that there was additional trim work necessary. That is another setback from the countertop installation. So with this kind of setback, my frustrations are mainly to do with the fact that I've let a homeowner down on one of their most important rooms of their house. The kitchen, the main thoroughfare, where all of your eating and drinking happens, where all of your entertaining occurs, and where you more or less gather every day with your family. My goal, if I'm gonna come out to your house to renovate, is to have the least amount of setbacks possible. Therefore, there are a lot of planning conversations on the front end, and there are a ton of decisions that need to be made before we move into that production phase. Since we're on the topic of setbacks, I want to talk to you about setbacks that we've had with lumber. Although, yes, you've probably heard that prices have fluctuated up and down, and the demand for materials have increased and decreased heavily over the course of the last 2 years. The setbacks with lumber that we have had are mainly to do with decisions that people have made. And this isn't a bad thing, but more often than not, we'll go ahead, schedule to be on project, and lumber will be delivered typically a day or two before we like to start the project. That way it's not sitting around, it's not in your driveway, it's not in your way. Unfortunately, we did have a recent setback that put almost an entire deck package on someone's driveway, blocking them from allowing them to get out of their garage. Now you may think, not a big deal, we just reschedule someone to come back over and readjust that stuff. However, because this home was such a distance from where our vendor was, it took 3 days for us to get a Moffett truck back over there to forklift this material out of sight so that the homeowner could get their van out of their garage. Again, a setback that we would never want to happen, but unfortunately it was one that occurred, and it's one that now I know that if we're gonna set materials on site, we need to specifically know exactly where those are gonna go, and we need to be informing the homeowner that, hey, we're coming today with lumber, it's time for us to make sure that this is gonna happen, and it's time to make sure that where we're placing this isn't gonna interfere with your everyday life. And lastly, probably the funniest setback we've ever had. Recently, we were doing a project on an outdoor patio, and when we do outdoor projects, we always like to have a porta-john set on site so that the crew members don't have to use your indoor space, tracking in and out all the dirt and mess. When our porta-john service provider dropped the porta-john, they did set it on the neighbor's yard, and unfortunately, we had to call and schedule to have it relocated. Not a pretty sight, but again, one of those things that we like to make sure that we do so that we don't have someone kind of tracking dirt in and out of your house. And obviously we never want to make it an awkward scenario when you got crew in your house using your facilities. And there you go, a couple of setbacks that many people probably wouldn't admit to, but unfortunately we're not perfect, we are human, and all that we can say is we do the best every time, and our goals are to learn from our mistakes and move forward. So keep following for some of our headaches and heartaches, and we'll catch you on the flip side.